Most people know Sun Tzu as a master of war strategy, but almost nobody understands what he was actually warning rulers about, and that misunderstanding has cost nations their survival for centuries. Sunday. Tzu was not fascinated by violence, victory, or domination. He was obsessed with something far more dangerous: the price that comes after the battle ends. When leaders quoted him, they focused on tactics, deception, and power, but they ignored the deeper truth hidden beneath his words. War was never about glory, it was about cost. Strip away the myths and slogans, and Sun Tzu stops sounding like a warrior philosopher and starts sounding like a financial risk analyst. He lived in a world collapsing under endless conflict where kingdoms were not defeated by enemies but destroyed by their own spending. Ancient China during the Warring States period was trapped in constant warfare, draining treasuries faster than they could be refilled. Every army that marched was a loan taken against the future, and most rulers never realized how high the interest would be. Warfare was no longer symbolic or ritualistic, it had become industrial, expensive, and economically lethal. Armies required grain, metal transport, labor, horses, weapons, and taxes at a scale never seen before. The moment soldiers moved, the financial meter started running, and it never stopped until the campaign ended. Short wars strained small states, long wars collapsed large ones, and yet rulers kept fighting. Sun Tzu recognized that this cycle was unsustainable and that victory meant nothing if the treasury was empty. While others studied formations and heroics, he studied logistics, timing, and financial exhaustion. He understood that the real battlefield was not land or morale, but the state's capacity to keep paying. This is why he believed avoiding war was smarter than winning one. His most famous idea, winning without fighting, was not philosophical poetry, it was pure cost avoidance. Every battle avoided was money saved, manpower preserved, and stability protected. Prolonged warfare did not weaken enemies, it weakened the state funding it. Sun Tzu warned that no nation has ever benefited from extended conflict, because the math never works. Food shortages, inflation, labor collapse, and rebellion followed long campaigns like clockwork. He saw war as a financial liability, not a moral test or an honorable pursuit. Art of War opens with a warning, not about courage but about danger. War, he said, was vital to the state, meaning capable of destroying it entirely. From the very beginning, his focus was containment, control, and minimizing exposure. He believed speed mattered not for aggression, but because delay multiplied cost. Every extra day in the field burned resources that could never be recovered. Slow victories were expensive victories, and expensive victories often became defeats. Sun Tzu preferred intelligence over armies because information was cheaper than blood. A single spy could save more resources than thousands of soldiers. Foreknowledge to him was data, and data was the most efficient weapon available. He understood that misallocated information was misallocated capital. Logistics were not support functions, they were the strategy itself. Feeding an army far from home drained a nation faster than paying its troops. Transport cost more than combat, and distance multiplied financial loss. Sun Tzu urged leaders to use enemy resources not for convenience but survival. Every grain captured was a grain, not tax from your own people. He condemned commanders who chased glory because they bankrupted their states. To him, a reckless general was more dangerous than a strong enemy. He believed rulers failed not because they lacked power, but because they miscalculated cost. War conducted without economic discipline was national suicide. Unlike other thinkers, Sun Tzu treated war like a balance sheet. Supply chains, morale, discipline, and timing were all cost variables. His 5 factors of war were not philosophy, they were risk categories. Stability, resilience, administration, and efficiency determined survival. Leaders who could not calculate cost had no right to calculate strategy. Sun Tzu opposed waste, not conflict. Fighting unnecessary battles was the ultimate financial failure. Diplomacy, intimidation, alliances, and deception were cheaper than armies. Therefore, they were superior strategies. States that followed this logic lasted longer than those that ignored it. Kingdoms that glorified honor collapsed under debt and rebellion. Sun Tzu was proven right not by theory but by history. This pattern did not end in ancient China. Modern wars repeat the same economic mistakes under different names. Vietnam, Afghanistan, and World War I collapsed under financial strain, not military weakness. Prolonged conflict eroded the state faster than the enemy ever could. Modern tools like cyber warfare, sanctions, and proxy conflicts follow Sun Tzu's logic. They aim for maximum effect with minimum financial exposure. Power today is still measured by economic endurance. Sun Tzu believed true strength was the ability to absorb shocks and recover. Overspending destroyed ancient kingdoms just as debt threatens modern states. Technology changes, but the math never does. Sun Tzu would recognize modern balance sheets instantly. His real lesson was never about winning wars, it was about avoiding national bankruptcy. States do not fail because they lose battles. They fail because they drain the capital that holds them together. Victory without solvency is meaningless. The best war is the one that leaves the economy intact. Sun Tzu glorified restraint, not aggression. Stability mattered more than conquest preserving. Resources was wiser than capturing cities. Winning without destruction was the highest form of intelligence. Acting without calculation was pride, not power. Sun Tzu was not a warrior, he was a steward, responsible for long-term survival, not short-term triumph. He refused to separate economics from power. War was simply the most expensive policy decision a ruler could make. Miscalculate it, and the state would not recover. His message remains unsettling because it is still true. Strength is not how hard you strike, it is how long you can afford to strike. Economically disciplined states outlast brave ones. History rewards restraint, not rage. Sun Tzu understood that cost outlives conflict, debt, rebellion, and collapse come after the banners fall. Every empire that ignored this paid the price. Every empire that respected it survived longer. The art of war is not about dominance, it is about survival. It teaches rulers when not to act. That knowledge is rarer than courage. Sun Tzu warned us, and we keep repeating the mistake. Power without discipline destroys itself. War without calculation bankrupts nations. Victory without stability is illusion. The real enemy is not across the border. It is the bill waiting at home. History does not repeat, but it always charges interest. And those who ignore the cost always pay it in full.